Who was better, Tupac or Biggie? Hey, Mr. School Counselor, what is going on, everyone? Welcome home to my viewers, my subscribers. And if this is the very first time you are watching Mr. School Counselor, now's the time for you to subscribe. Or hit that like button, that notification, the ring, whatever the case may be, to make sure you get the information that Mr. School Counselor has to offer. This week, summer's coming to an end, so we've got to talk about something that is actually quite important, or I should say extremely important, especially for my juniors and my seniors. What are we talking about? Public colleges and universities and private colleges and universities. Are they the same? Are they different? What does one have? What does the other have? How do we even look at them? How do we compare them? That's what we're talking about. So sit back, relax, enjoy, make sure, and I always stress this, comment, feedback. If you're a parent, if you're an adult, if you work in admissions already, if you're a school counselor, now's the time to share, now's the time to leave some comments, because we got to talk about this. You and I already know this is important. So let's do what it do, let's make it happen, and welcome to the Mr. School Counselor Show. All right, students, so it's time to pick a college. You've searched the internet, you've browsed and realized there's over 4,000 schools. But that didn't stop you. You kept going, you kept doing your research, and now you've come to quite a handful. And in this handful, you've realized there's public colleges and universities and private colleges and universities. Some of you may know this, some of you don't. If you do, awesome, continue to research, and if you don't, that's okay. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share what is a private college or university and what is a public college or university. So don't be frightened, don't get discouraged. Now is the time to sit back, take it in, and know that you got this. Let's begin. Studyinthestates.dhs.gov shared, and they define a private school as a college or a university that often operates as an educational nonprofit organization. It does not receive its primary funding from a state government. Private schools generally are smaller than public schools and have smaller class sizes than public schools. Some private schools may have religious affiliations. Private schools usually have a smaller selection of majors, but may offer more specialized programs. This is coming from a governmental website. This is not me, but it's good for you guys to see it as well. Now, I'm going to flip that and I'm going to talk about public college or university from the same website. A public school is a college or university funded by a state government. Public colleges and universities generally are larger than private schools and have larger class sizes. At a public school, you will likely have a larger selection of majors than you would at a private school, with both liberal art classes and specialized programs. Personally speaking, each and every college has to have their own culture and climate. The reason I say has to is I haven't been to every college or university in the United States, but I've been to quite a few. And one thing I can say is each one has their own culture and climate. So it's something you want to think of. Before signing up, before applying and saying this is the one, if you can take a look, take a look. If you can go visit, visit. If you have to do a virtual tour, you do a virtual tour. If you got to go on forums, if you got to do reviews, find somebody that went there. Do anything you can, because if you end up going somewhere and you don't fit their culture and climate, chances are you may resent it a little bit, and that's what we want to avoid. Let's avoid resentment. Let's avoid I wish I could have or I should have. Let's avoid all that stuff. So do your research and make sure you can find a place that fits not only your needs, but also things that you find that are important to you. All right, it's time for the milk and potatoes, or bread and potatoes, the main dish that we're waiting for, the pros and cons of public and private institutions. I'm gonna start with private just because I that was the first one I picked. And I'm going to share what different sources have said. Now, you can take it as a grain of salt. You can take it as it's information that's presented on the internet. I'm going to post all the websites, but I have here over 15 different sources that I was going through. And I'm just going to start by sharing the pros of the private institutions. So remember, right now I'm only stating pros. Let's begin. Pros of private institutions. They have a unique atmosphere. Their class sizes on average can be as small as 10 to 12 students in a class. Doesn't mean that public institutions don't have small class sizes, and also different majors could possibly have small class sizes. It just says that on average, universities tend to be a little smaller when it comes to class size population. Financial aid packages. Academics above all else. That source must have felt that private institutions definitely feel that there's academics before anything, and public colleges and universities don't follow that. I'm pretty sure public colleges and universities do follow that as well. Close-knit community. Favorable class sizes. There's the class sizes again. Financial aid packages. Taking sticker price with grain of salt. Private institutions tend to be more expensive, but they do have other scholarships or other means for you to pay for school. So this is, if you do your research, you apply to the scholarships that they offer, it tends to be cheaper. If you don't, get ready, because it's going to be a hefty price tag. Extensive financial aid packages again. Smaller class discussions. So if you have on average 10 to 12 students, the class discussions tend to be smaller. Greater class participation. You know yourself here. If you're a person that maybe you're shy or you don't like talking in front of a large group, there's chances you're going to have greater class participation. Private institutions and colleges, they set their own regulations and follow their own educational model. Since they're not funded by the state, they have their own educational principles and philosophies. Smaller classes means professors know the students. This could be a huge one. Are you the type that you need your professor to know who you are or not? If yes, something to consider. Prestige, once again. Prestige, you go on US News, you ask people, hey, if you could go to any college in the United States, let's put away majors. I know it's tough. Let's put away majors and programs, or tell me a college that you know. Chances are they're gonna pick one of the private institutions. Merit scholarships for student needing loans. So this is where merit scholarships come into play. Once again, private institutions is expensive or are expensive. They gotta find a way to make it affordable for students. More professor time. Smaller classes, more professor time. Limited class offerings. Alumni loyalty connections. That's huge. Sometimes it's who you know, not what you know. I don't want to say most of the time, but sometimes. And if there's already alumni that feel strongly about their institution and they can help a fellow student from their school, you got a good shot. So make that connection. And private schools show more students graduate in 4 years than as opposed to 5 or 6 years. All right, remember, that was the pros of the private institutions, of attending a private institution. You could take it for a grain of salt. Like I said, I got all that information from over 15 different sources online. So I'm just sharing it out there this way. If you ever decide, where can I get all this information? I'm gonna be putting it here on this video, but this process may just be a little easier or help you when it comes to you researching. Now let's talk about the cons. The cons of private institutions. Unique atmosphere. So it could be a pro and it could be a con if you do your research. Not as diverse. So public institutions tend to have more diversity than your private institutions. Tuition is high. I said it before. If you do not do the research or take advantage of scholarships, this sticker price is going to be extremely high and you're going to have to pay for it. Lack of diversity, once again, compared to public. Limited majors. So with schools tending to be smaller, there's a limited number of majors that you may be able to apply for or search for. Tuition cost, again, fewer programs, typically only offer bachelor degrees. That's something that you doing the research into a school that you want to go to, you may be able to find that information to see if they do offer or do not offer more than a bachelor's degree. If there is not a mentor, it can be expensive. And what this means is if you don't know someone or get in contact with someone from the school to help you with scholarships and stuff, it could be expensive if you're just lost or if you're out of the loop. Cost as much as 10 times more than a public college or university. 10 times more. On average, it could cost as much. It's harder to get in. So private institutions tend to be harder. They could be more prestigious. Remember, if more kids know about a specific school, whether it's through sponsorship, academics, whatever the case may be, you're going to have more people applying for a certain school, which make it more difficult to get in. And transferring of credits. So if you're coming from a community college, maybe a different school, they have their own philosophy. So they don't have to accept all your credits. And if they don't accept all your credits, transferring to this new school, you may have just lost some credits that you'll never get back. They're yours, but they don't count toward your degree. Whoa. All right, so even looking at it, I know I said a lot. Just remember, these are general statements or information given about these private colleges and institutions. So let's say, for example, you have a private college A and a private college B. That doesn't mean that they all fall or all these things that I just shared apply to each and every school. No, it's just general, it's broad. But this is why it's important to do your research, do your homework, because let's go back to that class size. There could be a school that does have 10 to 12 students on average, but then you may pick a private college or university that on average has 30 students. And then you're saying to yourself, man, did I make the right move here? I think I work best with smaller class sizes. So that's why it's important for you to do your research as well. Take it as we used to call it back then Cliff Notes. So take this as some information that you can use, small general outline, to help you along the way. This way you have a better understanding of what kind of questions or what things to look for when you start your process. Now, let's go to public colleges and universities. Let's start with the pros. Remember, over 15 different sources were used for this information. So we are going to hit the pros. Let's begin. The pros of attending a public college and university. Government provides financial aid. So funding comes from the government, which helps in the tuition process, which means, like I shared before, private colleges and institutions tend to be higher, could be cheaper. It could be even more cheaper if you apply for scholarships, but if you decide not to, it's still going to be expensive, but the price tag is a difference compared to private institutions. Again, though, generally speaking, on average, more programs. So public colleges and universities tend to have more programs. Less expensive, how I said before. They offer more degrees, so you have more opportunities to try out different programs. More on-campus employment positions. Flexibility. When I read that, I read flexibility. If you feel or if you know, hey, I'm going to have to work while I'm in school to pay for my tuition or just to help around the house, they share that there's more flexibility when it comes to picking or choosing classes and working also on a public college or university. I'm messing up my college and university talks right now. There's greater diversity. Diversity can be huge. Diversity is growing. It's something that is not spoken of as much on our college campuses because we see it. We see the benefits. We see the beauty of being in a diverse population, people bettering themselves. Have more of an active sports scene. Now, I know some private colleges and institutions that are big on their sports scene. Public colleges and universities also have it as well. Affordability in state school. So if you decide to go to school in your own state, it's going to be affordable. If you decide to go to a public college or university out of state, I'll touch on that later, but that's where out of state taxes come in. it'll be a little more expensive. More social and extracurricular activities. So if you want to join social intramurals or other programs such as I'm trying to think like an organization for drama or spoken word or music, whatever the case may be, there's more opportunities on average at a public college or university. Work and school flexibility, one more time, it can offer more for your money. So this goes into more courses. If there's programs that you really want to challenge yourself, it's something that's extremely daunting or extremely hard, and you feel like, hey, I'm ready for this, I'm going to give it a go, you take that shot, because they may have that program at your respective public college or university. And if you would have went to a private, on average, as they share, they're smaller, they may not have had it. Course availability and a larger alumni base. So private institutions have more of an alumni collection, but public colleges and universities have a larger alumni base. Now, let's get into the cons of a public college and or university. You're just another face in the crowd. What this means is, let's take it back to more affordable, more class sizes. That also means there's possibly more students on campus. Being more students on campus, you may not get that home feeling, that community feeling. When they say a larger face in the crowd, you might be going to school with 15,000 plus students, 20,000 plus students. What are you going to do to stand out? Do you want to stand out? If you don't want to stand out, you don't have to. But if you're trying to stand out or you want to, you got a lot of work to do. Classes, again, can have over 100 students. Not saying that private institutions don't, but again, on average, public have more students. Out-of-state taxes. This is where I'm going to go into the affordability. If you decide, let's say, for example, you are from, I'll pick a state, Pennsylvania, but you want to go to school in Florida, and you want to go to a public school like Florida State, you still have to pay out-of-state taxes, which can boost or make that affordable state tuition rise up, because you are not from the state of Florida, you're from the state of Pennsylvania. Getting lost in the crowd. Again, if you're lost and you get lost in the crowd, may not help. But if you're shy or you like being in a secluded area or being to yourself in a larger place, it may work for you as well. There's a myth or there's a negative stigma that lacks quality, that public education lacks quality. I don't know where this myth came from, but it's something that's out there. Classes fill quickly. A lot of students, a lot of kids trying to graduate. You got to be quick. So when it's your time to register, you better register, and you better register quickly, because your classes will fill up. And if they do, then you got to wait till next semester and possibly take something that either you had no interest of taking or you weren't ready to take. Difficulty to contact professor when you are in a larger group, or for example, let's see it like this. If a professor comes in and has to teach 100 students, and then there's another professor that has to teach 10 students, it's all about numbers. It's a numbers game. Which professor, if they're both the same professors, can get in contact or communicate better with students? 10 students or 100 students? Overcrowded campuses. There are some campuses, and again, I'm not saying that this does not fall into private institutions, but there are some campuses out there that could be overcrowded. If this is one that you are deciding to look into, ask some questions. Communication, once again, with professors. Average classes tend to be bigger than private. There's that again. And red tape or mistakes caused. Red tape. Let me define red tape. What red tape is time being wasted. So let's say, for example, you have a student aid or financial problem, and you go to the Department of Financial Aid, and in a larger school, let's just say it's harder to get in contact with. Now, one school in a public institution is completely different than another school in a public institution. So I am not saying that every school is like that. But when I did the research on these 15 sources, this was something that was brought up more than once. So it's just something to consider, something to think of, something to put into the back pocket as you're doing your own research. All right. So I shared all that with you, told you that take it as a grain of salt, look into it, do your research, and now you may come at me and go, yo, Mr. School Counselor, What college should I pick? Should I go private? Should I go public? And you already know what I'm gonna tell you. This is a question that only you can answer. Are you a person that's a ball of energy? Do you get energy by being around a lot of people? Are you a shy person? Do you work better, I would say, more by yourself than around a group of people? Do you feel you're going to participate more if you're in a group of 10 to 12 people on average? Or do you feel like, you know what, I'll feel comfortable laying low in a community of 100 students in a classroom or 50 students in a classroom? These are things that you can answer. Are you more outgoing? Or do you feel you're going to be involved on campus? Affordability, something that you're worrying about? Is prestige something? If you feel like you need to go to the best of the best school, that's something to consider. There are some students out there, and you know what? They may not be watching this, or they may. How do I get into an Ivy League? Or I'm only going Ivy League. And if they are, that's something that they know. That's something that they are doing the research in. So why not do the same research as well? You may not want to go to an Ivy League. You may not want to go to a public school or public institution. You may not want to go to a private institution. You may want to do something different. And the one thing I can say is each and every one of us have our own story. So what you decide is because you decided it, and that's what you want to do. So you have to do that research. Don't be the student that just waits. And what I mean by that is, don't just apply last minute. I've shared stories. I'm sure you've heard stories of the past. I'm sure there's adults out there, there's parents, there's school counselors, admission counselors that tell you, don't wait till last minute. Now is not the time. Get on your horse, start doing your research, start putting that work in, because this can help you. Even if it's a little bit, even if it's just 1 minute of watching this. If you picked something up today, put it at your disposal. Write it down so that when you ask an admission counselor or a school a question, a school that you want to go to, a question, you have something that you can ask them. So I heard, or so I read. Is this true? Does this apply? That's how this could be useful. Don't just take it like what Mr. School Counselor said regarding these sources is the 100% factual truth. No, they're general statements. I'm aware of that, and I want you to be aware of it as well. Woo! I said a lot today. I know I said a lot, but it's okay because it's needed. And if it's to help you get to that next process or get to the next step, then it is what it is. I'll talk all day if I have to. Want to let you know though, I'm proud of you. Continue to watch, continue to share. If you have friends out there that you know this could help them, let them know. Keep bringing high school students my way. I need y'all to understand this. Tell your parents about me too. I need them to understand this stuff, because once they start asking questions to college campuses, they'll see if the college is ready to answer their questions needed. So be ready, be equipped, start researching, start getting focused, because summer is ending and that school year is about to begin this coming September. And I know some schools have already started. I want to let you go. Remember, comment, leave any feedback. If you agree, if you disagree, if you work or you went to one of these schools that something doesn't apply, let us know. Bring it to the attention of everybody. Don't just say, "Oh, I don't agree," or "It's not true." No. Put some statements down there, right? Because remember, this is for our students. This is to raise awareness. I want to thank you. Thanks for watching, Mr. School Counselor. And you already know, we'll see you next week.